So welcome back to the next part. Sorry about that. We've been having some issues dealing with personal stuff at home, the animals, all that stuff. The paint and glue wasn't wanting to set on this, so I've given it more time to kind of do that and kind of just rushed in, so it's not going to be the best quality. So, like I said in the last part, we will be doing this in a better format. I'll have more of these made so we can kind of quickly go through step by step. We'll do it on a more. So we're just going to get this done with. We're going to finish it. Again, I'm really sorry about how this is coming out. This is not what I wanted. I wanted a nice, just relax 4 hour stream of us just chilling and me building, and we were doing this together sort of idea, but it just didn't happen. So as you guys can see, got the desk, we got a new camera. It all has autofocus and stuff, so that's pretty neat. Watch this. Let there be light. So, yeah, bam, autofocus. So we're gonna start off with basically our hedgerow first. So how we're gonna do that is we're gonna start with some foam. This is some cheap ass foam that I got from the dollar store. Pretty thick, pretty big chunk, pretty thin, pretty thin, half-inch foam. It's 20 by 30. It was like $1.50. But anyways, as you can see, I already got a chunk cut out of it. That was me just doing a test piece, which you guys will be able to see what it looks like when we're done, because we're going to do an on-stream building. And I've kind of tested it, kind of see how I want to do it. But I've figured out how, so we're going to do it that way. This foam has paper on it, so you guys could just probably leave the paper on and it'd be fine. It would, you just have to be careful of the exposed ends because super glue does melt. Super glue and propellant aerosols, the ones that aren't just air, the ones that actually have the spray paint stuff in it, will melt foam. Which, if you want to cool, like to get natural like cave-ins, like say if you have a pretty thick piece of foam and you want to do like a chunk like we're going to do in the next part where we're going to make fields, you can use that super glue, just make a little tiny circle, kind of like a ring in an area, and it'll melt in, or a pool of it, or use your aerosol spray and do light spray and then cut off a bit of the paper here and spray a little bit more on that, and you can make natural indents, like just like holes in dirt or something from excavation stuff, or craters from things like that. But so that's what we're doing. So we're gonna safely cut, probably do this on a cutting board. I have a mat here that has a healing bit underneath it, so it's fine. Cut away from you, of course. And if you're a younger person, let your parents do this for you. This is our piece. I didn't cut it really well. It's a hedgerow. It's going to be, the outside part's going to be dirt, so it's unnatural. So having little unnatural curves, you don't have to be perfectly straight. If you want to be super, like I can connect anyway, like a puzzle piece, which I'm going to be doing turns and stuff, so that's going to be interesting. Then you might want to use a measuring, like a metal ruler, and have it down and cut with it on the edge, kind of like when you draw with a pencil. But I don't really care. It's going to be scattered anyway, and it might get dinged up. This is for personal use, so. Besides that, so we got our foam here. So we're going to figure out what side do we want to work on. That's the side we're going to remove the paper on. Usually, whatever side I find is the easiest to remove the paper. This was actually a tip I've learned from my through Mitch. You guys may have heard him before on the streams, but I want as much of the foam to be exposed because I'm going to be gluing another foam piece onto this later. If you're using just white glue, then feel free to leave the one, or if you have to use super glue and you're not using a foam piece to glue onto a foam piece, then yeah, just leave the paper on. Paper is pretty strong, unless you're like whipping this thing at the floor or constantly moving it around, or using it like a piece that models will step on and off on. not applying too much like sand and foam or sand and grit. But that's basically as good as I want it. They'll cover a good chunk. So that's the foamy side, paper side. So now what we're going to do, and this is just in general for everything, you can do it on metal models preferred. You can do it on plastic, but you don't really need to. Anything that's not a glue that will melt and seal together on a surface, especially a rough one, you want to kind of like sand it. Thick my 120 grit, and I believe this is like a 300, something like that. Like the more bigger the number, the finer it is, because it means more grains per square inch or something like that. Finer gets you smoother. Thicker / rougher will get you like remove the chunks. But anyways, yeah, we're gonna sand the edges here in the top. At least with the big grit, we'll sand the top, and then the edges we'll sand with a little after. And this will do is we're gonna. It's called like there's a process you can do called beveling, where you kind of flatten around the edges. If you do it on this foam, I find that you want to use the sharpest edge on your blade. Basically what you do is you kind of go at an angle and you kind of just slice it on an angle like that. And what this does, beveling, is it kind of like flattens the edges, rounds it out basically. And I find that this is cool on dirt effect stuff or trenches because it gives it that natural kind of blend in. It's not just like a flat square. And this foam has an issue with it. That, or I just might need a sharper blade. But this is why the sanding comes in nicely. It doesn't matter. So basically you're kind of looking like an edge like that, like rounded here. Just want to be careful not to cut yourself or cut too much foam off. But this is where the sanding will come in. The sanding will help us smooth this out. So if we go here, you guys might have like a handle to hold your sandpaper in. That's preferred. I like using my thumb and fingers because your finger basically acts like a natural holder, / it can shape and mold to the surface. So you get little bits, kind of like a Gillette razor. There we go. Do the best. Wipe off. And there you go. That's the foam sanded. How you see the bevels right here? That kind of like smooths in. It's kind of hard to see on there, but have it kind of autofocus. Go. There we go. Yeah, so it's got the smooth edge around it now. So now that we got this done, we want to go through quickly here. Don't need to spend as much time. We're just going to quickly go through the edges here that we've made with the sandpaper and the knife, just to smooth it out. That way we're not ripping pieces off or catching it and stuff like that. It's also soft too, so impact on your hands if you're picking it up or the models help it smooth on and off. If you were making this a terrain piece that you wanted models to climb onto, you could do a deeper incline. So instead of going more flat, you go more this way. That way a model could sit on the table in it. But this is, again, not meant to really be climbed on. This is a line of sight blocking piece or a heavy cover if you play bolt action or whatever your version of the game is. There's a strong little piece poking up here, so I'm just going to quickly cut that off. Keep it. I know we're going like natural, but you do want some, especially on these shorter edges, you do want a little bit of consistency, because that way if you have multiple of these, which I will, I should have a table of these made. It's going to be mixtures of fences, cobblestone, walls, and the grass stuff and the hedgerow. You should be able to like put them side by side and they naturally kind of fit. There's that. So that's the sanding done. Now our next step we're going to do is is we're going to apply the support for this. So this is a thin foam. If you had a thicker foam, you might not have to worry about this. For roads, this is definitely what you want to do, or rivers, places where you're doing mixtures of stuff, or if you live in a humid place or somewhere where you're going to have a flat, wide surface where it can curl. So what you want to do is you can, especially with roads where you might have like a lip or cement or bricks or something. Terrain tutor said, and this is where I learned it from. There's also just knowledge about how to do this. I've learned it from him. And you can do milliput or green stuff or some sort of putty, Play-Doh even. Crayola does like a molding putty. It's like basically something that hardens that you can apply. And as well, that is really good, and actually you can do like it can mold to the thing you're going to put on, hold it actually, and fill in gaps. It can be pretty expensive if you're not going to be like this centerpiece or you're only doing 2 or 3 of them. Because I'm doing a mass quantity of them, I went and got popsicle sticks. These are nice because if you say like paint small miniature epic scale stuff like Flames of War or Warhammer Epic and stuff, you can just put all your dudes on here and spray it. It's nice. It's a stir stick for if you have like if you have a can of Quick Shade or paint in general, or like you mix your craft store paints together. But the other reason why it's good is this stuff cuts really easily because it's thin. It's like balsa wood or whatever. And you're not going to get charged as much as, say, if you go to a Michael's or a hobby store for hobby grade wood. So it's like $1 for a pack. But anyways, to be cutting here. And because we're going to be using this over multiple stuff, we're just going to make 2. So we've cut into it. You're just going to carefully, on the edges where you cut, just kind of try to be careful to snap it. It might naturally want to break somewhere else. That's fine. And then we're just going to be careful and bam. Yeah, so it wants to go this way. That's fine. There we go. So now we have 2 pieces. Try to break it into 3. That's fine. The reason why that's fine is because the thicker piece you're going to use on this, and the thinner piece we're going to be building fences later on the next one. So this small piece will be used as wood for the fence, which it should just also just. So we're going to go here, take a look at our piece of foam here, and we want to make sure we cut it so that the little paper clip, the popsicle stick, covers just the area that is on the top. And usually you go in here with a pencil, and we're going to line it up here. If it's curved like this, which it naturally will, it's a thin piece of wood, especially after you cut it. And your foam is probably going to curl up. So what I do is I put it so it curls down. So naturally, what it will do is it will pull itself together, like it'll hold itself. You know, like the whole like opposite attracts, or like putting bread on a buttered bread, the butter side up on a cat and spins on the whole like it can never stop spinning because it can't touch the ground. Kind of gives that idea. So we're going to make sure we get our curved side. There we go. And it fits. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get the foam glue here. This stuff is a non-smelling one, so it should be safe. It should be safe for skin. Again, the usual, don't put it up to your eyeball. Don't eat it. The stuff comes out kind of jelly-ish, but it does come out quick. So you just need to give it a tiny little squeeze just to get it started. Oh, there we go. And you just need a little strip like that. Have a clean little piece of paper towel on the side here. Just fully close it, wipe off the top, what have you. And then we're going to quickly, without really touching it, we're going to go in and try to get this as centered as we can. And we're just going to press it down. And we're going to hold it for a bit. So that's kind of how it turns out. well, that'll do also, it gives it a little bit more space. So if you say you wanted to do um, just a bump in the road, or maybe you had some those like chunks of resin if you buy Forge World or other places where they have like the big like triangle with the pieces they're stuck on, you could cut those on half and put them down on here, and this could be a safe spot for super glue. And you can make tank traps or a little check spot, or you can just have it as a bumpy road and just be like, so got that down. I'm going to get our next piece here that we'll need for this progression. As I turn around and I notice things are falling apart, unless again you have that nice clean floor, because what I'm going to do here is, because this is that foam where it's basically like particle board but a foam. When I start I'm just going to cut off a strip here. When you start foam like that, we don't care about the size right now, we're just going to measure it out. So about there. Anyway, we're just going to go bap. And this is where a really sharp knife will help, because instead of tearing, it's going to just cut. So this is going to represent the basically like the brush and stuff behind the bushes. So we're gonna just, I've learned from my last one, I want to make it a little bit thinner, so we're gonna do that. There we go. There we go. Don't have to go too hard. Again, you're just basically smoothing it out. If you want it to be rough, you can, but I find that if you use this to smooth out, you won't have the white foamy stuff coming off during your play. Because again, we're building this for play, we're not building it for display. There is a difference between the two. Open this up again. Usually you can do this this entire step if you're in the right spot, not really caring much about cleanup and stuff, and again, you don't have camera equipment all around you. You can do this in, I'd say, under like 20 minutes, depending on your materials and stuff, and then we just onto there. And now this is where we could, again, make that, and this is where how we're going to do our stone bricks, is you could then go in here with your knife, and gently do cuts into it. You don't want to go deep. You're not trying to cut out stuff. What you're trying to do is make emphasis on lines. So when you go in with your washes and stuff, it looks like grit is inside the bricks. So we're just waiting to hold this down to dry. One little push down on it. Don't want to push too hard because you don't want to indent the foam, unless you want to, which then that adds character to it. Again, not so much on here. We don't have to worry about that because this is, again, supposed to be like brush and dirt and rocks that it's wrapped around, because the hedgerows actually grew up kind of like weeds around rocks and gravelly stars on sides of roads and fields, and made it really hard for people to go through. It's going to take a very, like, at this point it is workable, but just be careful. It does take quite a bit of time if you're using foam glue on a non-foam surface to completely seal. So you want to be gentle while working on this for the next few steps, because it will slide and lift, and if you really need to, you can go in with another layer around the edges with PVC or something. Now we get to the fun, messy part, which is applying our sanding grit. And this is definitely a catch for this stuff. You have a few ways to do this. You can cheese. We have this stuff. This is a low odor indoor sort of spray glue. So you can apply this. This mostly I'd recommend more for grass and stuff. What we're going to do, you can also use pre-made gravel texture paint. It's just brown paint and dirt from outside mixed together, or any other color you want to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with PVC glue, We're going to slather the entire thing, don't care about where it gets. And we're going to stick this in a bucket of sand. And that's going to work for that. Okay, so this is some old Games Workshop white glue. Again, it's white glue. If you're on a surface you don't really care about, like this mat, I can just go crazy with the glue. I don't, to an extent, you know. I don't have to really be fine with it. You can also put this glue into, say, a old water bottle you cut up or something, like a plastic bottle. I did that before. Stuff like that. Come on, there we go. And I don't care. Again, I don't care about my surface getting all messy. It's PVA glue. It's gonna drop anyways. Drop, and you can just easily get it off. If not, I can just pick it up with the brush. So we're gonna go in here. It might mix with your foam glue if you don't let it completely dry. That's, again, fine. Ain't gonna hurt anybody. This is why I also use a brush. That's not like super important. So now the fun part, I just have a little bit of sand. I'm going to be getting some more later on. We have our water paint thing here. Stick the brush in there. Don't use the same cup that you use for painting stuff like models. You definitely want a not that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, and this is why another reason why I made it this size was so it can fit in the container. I'm just going to do that. Shake it off, and again, and bam, gently just tap the bottom. And there we go. As you can see, we do have some on the sand there, and we have some of the popsicle stick exposed. That's fine. What we're going to do next, we'll hide it, even if you have some on the bottom here. That's fine. But that's the sanding now done. If you wanted to make it safer, this is where the seal glue comes in. You could mix this with thicker rocks, like I could have put this rock stuff in there, but I use that for model basing too, so I keep it separate on purpose. Put that down there. So now we're going to do, and this is where we're going to actually try this for the first time to see how it reacts to foam, because I've never used this stuff before. Again, this is where you definitely want insulation. You want a area that has good. Now we're going to go in with the rocks here. I'm going to put it on and see how it works. Last time with the rocks, because we had the sand base, I just makes the grassy bits a little bit more rougher to say. So terrain modeling is not clean. I'll say that much. Yeah. So there we go. Gonna let the glue dry, and then when we come back, because this is a break, when we come back, we're going to prime it and paint it, get ready for the bushes. So I'm gonna go take a break, and if you guys are watching this on YouTube when it comes out, we'll be right back after this quick little break, or even a advertisement for the store. But yeah, so you want to make sure you're doing this in a well-ventilated area. The army painter stuff we were actually just talking about is pretty okay. I find you need to shake their stuff like crazy because that's how they're made. But I'm basically going to shake this stuff. This is Game Master for those watching the video. This is a new primer by Army Painter. It's actual paint just pressurized. So there's nothing in here that will hurt foam. And as an example, we're going to be spraying it on top of this foam sheet. It's pure foam, no coating on it whatsoever. And you guys are going to see how this goes. So I'm going to mute the mic, and we'll get to spraying again. I do not condone spraying this in an enclosed area without ventilation or in a proper spray booth, or even just walking outside. So keep an eye on this. Hopefully I get this in good, because we're only going to get one shot with this. The next couple of times we do this for the next piece, I'm going to prime this outside. So let's go. Or a bunch of millimeters for those crazy people. But anyways, I'm going to do it about right here. And we're just going to spray from the start, and just like that. Just like that. And then it has a cool, unique smell to it, which is awesome. Doesn't smell bad. I know some paint I have smells of banana when I start. So there it is. That's how you properly prime a thing. Make sure if you're doing a model and you're using a model primer, you want to be about, I find with like the Army Painter or Games Workshop stuff, I'm usually about this far away or farther back, about that much or so, depending on weather. So from edge to edge, my finger's over here, so like that far away. You want to go, you just want to go that, let go, start just before you hit the model, start off the model, and I'll blend it. You don't want to do too many thin layers, even if it looks like you missed something or it doesn't look thick, especially if it's darker outside. Let it dry, and then just always come back. As the great Lord Duncan once said, 2 thin coats, because you can never remove, you can always add. Especially with this stuff, you're doing terrain, so you don't have to worry too much. So you could just blast it and just let it, because it soaks in. And it actually gets into crevices pretty well and all that. So I'm going to go, and this is the thing I can't do in my room, I'm going to go clean up the can. So basically how you clean up the can is give it a quick little shake after. You want to turn it upside down, so the ball bearing, you hear hit the bottom, because the bearing kind of acts as a block. Then you just basically push until you see paint come out, until it comes out white. If you're using a like see-through. If you're using like say a glue or something where you want to clear the nozzle, wait until it comes out like you don't see you just see a bit of smoke, and that's it. Like a tiny puff of smoke is coming out as you let go. Sorry about that. Okay, we got it primed. I got it off the thing. I used the brush because, again, the sand's only held down by PVA, so the spray, because it's watery and propellant-y, it will loosen the sand. So we basically can't start anything else on here for now. So what we're going to do here is we're going to call it for the stream for now. We're going to let this dry. We're going to come back in about an hour or two. We'll be back in the next video / next part of this video and stream. So with that, basically all you've missed off stream or off camera was I've went in and I've re-glued the rocks down. You might see some whiteness around the rings. I had to use super glue, unfortunately. The white glue didn't make it stick strong enough against the bristles again. So that's why you want to use soft bristle brushes and stuff. I went in and added some more brown. There's some patches missing. That's okay. It'll be covered by grass. Uh, Gently just kind of tapping it, letting sand fall off. As it dried, I went in and kind of did like this weird sort of mix where it's a dry brush, but with the base paint is still a little bit wet. So it kind of naturally blends in and makes like a shade. And then you go in with a watered down version of your base paint to cover layers and acts as a wash. But I didn't use the shade, the quick shade. I'm going to use that on the fields, especially once I can actually let the sand dry. So I think that varnish I had was a lot better than this glue spray that I have. Again, we're going to try it with the grass to see how it works. People say that it's supposed to be good. If it doesn't work with the grass, I'm just going to trash it, and we're going to go with the PVA glue, and we're going to go with that varnish that I have, which we're going to get ourselves the PVA brush. Brush here, so there's some old brush, some PVA glue, which the store has. Carrie's Army Painter. Citadel no longer really does any sort of glue except for plastic glue, which is weird because they still sell some resin models, but whatever. And they sell basing train stuff that requires PVA glue. Anyways, we're going to put some down because we have this piece of cardboard that I've ripped up, and we're just going to carefully just go across the edges here and just gently apply it to where we want it to go. And if you have some dirt show through, that's fine also. Again, this is meant to be on, the way I'm doing it is it's a muddy road. It's rain has just fallen on this part of the city, leading into the bridge on Operation Market Garden, which I believe it actually did rain that day. That rock just doesn't want to stay, so that's fine. I can use that rock somewhere else. That's a-okay. Not every little part has to have a rock. So with the PVA applied, we're going to go now, just like we did with the sand, put that in the water, clean that off. We're going to get our grass here. We're using you can use a few options I have some carpet moss stuff from like a pool table. I got some of this Army Painter stuff. It's pretty nice. Or you get something like this. So we're basically just going to take some in our fingers here over the thing, and we're just going to sprinkle it on. And this is basically the same technique you'd use for, say, if you're blending grasses. So if you're having like a after fall going into summer, so some of the grass is still like dead, but you also have some nice patch of living grass, like stuff that's been watered or has survived. Already kind of has that death grass kind of blended in. And we're just gonna very gently. You don't want to tap it too hard, it'll fling the grass. You just tap in enough that any of the stuff that's at the top that's sitting on it will just kind of fall off, and anything that's glued on will stay. So it's a test of strength and a cleanup technique. Do it over the container you're using it on, and it will save it. So over time you'll get little debris in your grass, that's fine. Yeah, so you have areas like this where you have grass on the rock. Basically just come over here with your finger when it's still wet and just wipe it off. It's not uncommon for grass and mold and stuff to dry and grow on rocks. But we put some work into getting these rocks to stay, so we might as well actually let them be visible. Now we move on to the next part before we get into the actual main part, which is applying, or at least for the hedgerow side of things, the little tufts here. So this is where you can also mix grass. You can also make your own static grass version of this. So I'm doing again, this is fall This is where market garden happens. So we're going to spray, or we're not going to spray, we're going to actually super glue this. I'd super glue these as I'd recommend. I'm going to just super gently keeping my nozzle of the glue up above. We're going to just let the super glue actually drip down because you don't want it to get onto it, because that'll end up clogging your on the camera, but in person it gives the grass enough definition to be different so it stands out, but it doesn't look too drastic like it wouldn't actually be there. And we're back. Yeah. So we've gone and applied our tufts here. Tufts all around the base. As you can see, the PVA glue has started to dry. That's fine. It will get clearer as it goes on. Now we're going to apply the actual hedgerow itself. And because we have this row here and it's thick, and we painted it brown and shaded it, we don't really need to add a lot to it. Just enough to perceive the idea that, hey, this is a hedgerow. It's thick, clumped foliage growing on some rocks. So, and with the sand on the bottom lip here, we kind of made that look of rock. And because we haven't had applied grass to it, it looks like ground rock. And because it's raining and it's been stuff, it looks like wet rock. So we're going to use this stuff. You can make your own. The train tutor teaches you how to make your own of this stuff. I got to stop looking at this camera. The train tutor makes his own. He shows you how to make it your own self if you have the tools and the space to do it and you're super into hobbying. Recommend checking that out. Again, I'll have his videos, his channel on the in the description, but we're just going to apply a strip here after this glue decides to start. We're just gonna zigzag pattern across here, just like this. And again, like I said, because how it's clumped together, it will, you can re-clump it, you can unclump it, stuff like that. And I'm gonna grab a new clump of stuff right here. Stone wall with some grass growing on it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around the edges here and apply just a little bit to it around the edges, right around here. So that's what we'll do. You will have sticky, like it will stick to your fingers. Don't worry about that. That's just the glue from the company that they use to make it. But, so there we go. Again, if you have like little sections in here, like you guys can see under here, if it zooms in, autofocuses here. There's a little bit of white there that you can see beside that bush. You're going to be looking at this from a very far distance, so you won't see it looking down like that. So we'll be fine on that edge. And then we're just going to go around and do that to the rest of the sides here. So there we go, guys. We've gone and coated the whole thing in the shrubberies. A little bit thicker than I want it to come out, but this is our first time using this woodland foliage stuff, so our second real time making terrain. Tap, 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 tap. I think compared to this morning, it looks pretty good. I like the woodland scenic stuff. Again, all this little stuff on the table here, I'm going to just put back into the bag, but this is basically how it turned out. So, got our grass down, got mud again, all the PVC glue is going to dry, and the grass will be standing back up again, but probably come in with some more PVA dried up when it dries up, but this is basically it. So I'm going to go spray it with the actual real sealant I have. I'll go grab the other one, and when we come back for the last cut back, you guys will get to see what it looks like when it's done the way originally I did it, without these. When you let it dry for a good day or so, an hour, properly sealing it and not using that tacky spray-on glue that I have. So we will see you guys in the next final part of this video. Alright, so guys, we're back for the last part here. So I just went and sprayed the terrain piece. So this was the one that I did from a week ago. So this was using Michael's Brand's foliage with Games Workshop summer grass. So it looks a lot more lively. You guys can kind of see the rocks in there. You can see the patches of grass. I've also learned not to put the patches of grass on before the grass, like we did here. We put the tufts on after. So then, again, this is where we're learning is they're kind of hidden, but because the varnish, it's made them tough, which is okay, but the grass still stands. You can still see the lightened sand and how we dry brushed it with the lighter color where you mix brown, 1 drop brown. You can do multiple steps, but the lighter you want to add it, it's usually for every drop of your base color, you add a drop or two of a lighter color. The color I have is really bright and yellow, so I just used half a drop for it, and it worked per drop of brown. But again, you'll figure it out with your own paints. But yeah, this is kind of like the top. So if you want a good example of how it can look once you kind of figure out what you're doing, this is it. And again, it's only curved a tiny bit, so tiny, so minuscule that it doesn't matter on the table. Like it's curled just an inch under, like it's no thicker than a base, and it's fine. It's mostly because we have sand on the bottom here that came out from when I dipped it in, so it's kind of lifting it. The center of the glue is sucked into it, so, but it's not like a huge curve, and it's not unstable. It doesn't look out of place. It's fine to me. And then on this one, this is it after the varnish, so it's gonna go, this varnish I used is gonna go on glossy. If I can get this thing. Here it's a little bit more patchy. As you can see, the grass, we've applied the grass after, so that it actually sticks out. It still gives that look of, hey, this is a hedgerow, this is a clump of rocks and grass growing. This one's just a little bit more livelier. The grass is probably more fresher. It's just starting to grow, unlike the other one where it's super been there for a while. This one's fresh this year or that year. We have the rock you can see here. It's shaded by that, so it looks darker. More of the grass tufts. And as you can see, the grass has hidden the exposed stuff. So, and it also looks like the bushes are growing out too. So this is a more out of control hedgerow, basically, from the top. So this is just like thick bush. Basically, that's what hedgerow is. Hedgerow is a line of thick brush that grows and is kind of like on the side of the road there, and it blocks sight. A lot of places, like you might see in those houses where it's like your basic like square house, and then there's like the driveway. This is usually like on that driveway, so there's like a driveway going this way and then a driveway going this way. This is basically what that is. So that is the hedgerow complete. Again, when it dries more, the grass will start to stand up. The thing will be less shiny. You can also, if it really bugs you, if you can find varnish that is a matte, and then of course, but I use it's a satin, so it goes on glossy, so you can see where you hit it, so you don't apply too much. I apply usually about 2 layers of this stuff. It's really strong, really good. You don't need to, but I like to be safe than sorry. Again, I'm building this for table play. I'm not building it for looks. If I'm doing that, I'm going to be doing completely different, and we might do a series on that, or get Mitch to help us with it. But yeah, so then because how these are based and squared, we can just do this. So like say I want to edge, just bam, 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 bam. Or if I want a T section there, or if we want to go long ways, it naturally just blends in. So that's how you guys do your basic sort of hedgerow there. You can make a bunch of these really quick, especially once you get your technique down. So we will see you guys in the next video. Hopefully this has solved a lot of problems and we don't have this cursed video yet again. So see you guys in the next one.